English teachers, what topic on a write about anything essay made you lose hope in humanity? My HS English teacher had to state, due to a submission the year before, that writing about your foot fetish and pleasuring yourself with your feet would not be read or graded. I was in a film class and the professor also had to clarify, due to events of last semester, submitting pornography of any kind, even with all parties consenting, for a film project will constitute an automatic failure on the assignment. My first photography teacher had 3 rules. No feet, no nudity, no cars. I guess she was just tired of seeing pictures of people's cars, I dunno. 2 stand out. First one, the prompt was if you could go back and change one thing from your life, what would it be? A young man wrote about the night his abusive alcoholic dad came home. Apparently from the story, dad came home this way often. The fateful night he wanted to change was the first time he stood up to his dad. Dad came home, kid defended his mum and dad in a drunken rage left. Dad got into a head-on collision and died. Kid totally blamed himself for his father's death. Second story, the prompt was create a holiday and what the traditions and customs of the holiday were. A student created National Black People Day. I was like, okay, how are you going to celebrate it? She said by killing white people. I was like, what? She said, yeah, once a year we can kill as many white people as we want. I got the counselor involved in both of them. What the frick? That's what I said, lol. That first prompt seems like it would bring out people's darkest stories. One of my 3rd graders wrote the same thing about killing all white people after Trump was elected. The prompt was basically if you were voted in as the new president, what would you do? It was an awkward call to his mom. Our English teacher told us that some guy copied an article from the Italian Wikipedia thinking it was in English. How high do you have to be to not know what your own language looks like? I feel like I know the exact story behind this. Dude, you can't just rip it straight from Wikipedia. Teachers check that. But to get around it you can use a wiki from another country. Brilliant. I'll do that. I teach literature at a college and mostly deal with freshmen and sophomores. For our free writing unit, one of the assignments asked the students to write any original story based on your favorite fictional genre. So, one of my students wanted to do horror. I said great. That's also a favorite of mine. Go nuts. Eventually, the assignments are turned in, and I'm grading them at home. I get to the kid with the horror story and it's about a serial killer who stalks women. Okay, whatever. Nothing I haven't seen before. But then the story goes into long, excruciating detail about the next victim this killer plans on stalking, raping, murdering. A petite blonde in her early 30s who teaches English. And it just so happens I'm a petite blonde in her early 30s who, well, yeah, I didn't report it or anything since it was a creative exercise. I didn't grade him unfairly, either. But I seriously couldn't look that kid in the eye ever again. If there was something to make me start looking over my shoulder, this would be it. Successful horror story then. I'm going to take the charitable approach and assume that was the idea. On one hand it really could have just been a case of the kid wanting to scare his teacher a bit for its and giggles. That's what I wrote it off as. At least I'm not dead yet. Not an English teacher. Just a mother reading over her 10th grader son's essay 2 weeks ago. He had written something to the effect of, heaps of people have heaps of hobbies. So we had a conversation about using more academic language and employing a wider range of vocabulary. I come back 10 minutes later and he'd used the thesaurus function in Word, so it now read, piles of people have mounds of hobbies. Just, row. Your son is either dumb or brilliant. The word is remarkably impaired. Your kid is hilarious. At first I read it as a 10-year-old. Then I realized it's more like a 15 or 16-year-old. Absolutely hilarious. My girlfriend and her sister have some pretty daft assignments. The girlfriend got asked to write a paper on any aspect of history, so just wrote about her life up until that point. Her sister got asked to do a presentation on evolution and did it on the 2001 film. The girlfriend got asked to write a paper on any aspect of history, so just wrote about her life up until that point. I got that one myself in 6th grade and did an expanded chronology of every dog my family had owned. I was extra proud of myself because I got to start with a dog named Jack, owned by my great-great-grandfather, who was notable for urinating on the bar of a local saloon and indirectly causing the arrest of 3 men for public disturbance. Holy frick, what a legend. Do you have more details? From what I was able to put together, Grandpa went into the saloon for a meal and some beer. When he was finished with the meal, he picked up his little terrier, Jack, to eat the scraps. Another rather drunk patron thought it would be funny to shout at and scare the dog, who promptly took a whiz all over the bar. The bartender took offense to the soiled bar and axed Mr. Shouty. When Shouty didn't go, 2 other patrons removed him. And then there were some passers-by, and some words, and a spook horse, and the police officer that had been there the entire time arrested 3 of the 8 or so people involved in it and made them spend the night in the same small jail cell. This is like some legendary intro or side plot to a western film. Someone get Hollywood on this ASAP. I would honest to God read this 6th grade essay happily. I've had classmates submit essays copied straight up from Wikipedia, including the blue hyperlinks and all. I had a classmate in high school who once did a presentation where he just read his text off a piece of paper. The presentation included the phrase, "As a historian, I, teacher here," once had a female student submit an assessment that included the phrase "now," as a male journalist. Didn't bother reading the rest. A classmate did that except with American and turn of the millennium. We were Australian and it was like 5 years ago. You know how some people get in a pedantic argument about how the new millennium started in 2001 instead of 2000? Well, they're all just arbitrary numbers anyway, so I've decreed that the new millennium started in 2013. Everybody else just started counting at the wrong time. This is my favorite. One of those moments where powering through despite any doubt is probably the wrong move. Well, it wasn't the topic itself, but a student literally cited The Onion as one of his main sources. That was enough to make me lose hope. Here's one I can actually answer. I was teaching an IELTS test prep class to high school aged students in China. One of my students is planning on being a nutritionist, and when I gave her a topic about what she would change if she could be the president for a day, she said that she would imprison everyone who was over a certain BMI until they were thin, and if they were repeat offenders they should spend life in prison for wasting public resources and making healthcare more expensive for everyone else. When a 16-year-old male student wrote about the fine world of webcamming and how easy it is to make a lot of money off attention-hungry old people. Okay, please tell me he isn't one of them. He is. Kid wears more gold than a pimp and drives a BMW. I have seen this before. English tutor here. I had a student in high school who was really struggling with the writing prompts I was giving him. He was studying hybrid genres in school and how to write a hybrid genre short story. So I basically gave him a long list of genres, told him to pick any 2 he wanted and combine them to write a story. He didn't get it. He emailed me asking for clarification, like which topic do I choose here? And I told him he could be as creative as he liked. Pick horror and sci-fi. Pick mystery and crime. Pick romance and mystery. Whatever strikes your fancy. I literally could not have given him an easier prompt. Then he asks me to give him some examples of hybrid genre stories, so he has an idea of what to write. So I emailed him a list of famous hybrid genre books. For example, The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, Gun with occasional music by Jonathan Lethem, Harry Potter, etc. This kid basically latched onto Harry Potter and rewrote the sorting ceremony from Philosopher's Stone, word for word. There was no orientation, no info about his main characters, who were coincidentally also called Harry, Ron and Hermione. No complication, no climax, no resolution. It was literally just an incomplete retelling of the sorting hat ceremony from the first book. Not only did this kid fail to think of a single creative story idea, he plagiarized one of the most famous books of all time and was daft enough to think I wouldn't notice. It really made me despair. Are you familiar with the concept of a philosophical zombie? Philosophical zombies are capable of profound writing. That's the point. This is more like humans failing the Turing test. This kid sounds just like chatbot. Harry Potter obsession and all. Huddle. First book I thought of was Warm Bodies smiley face. Would love to read any others, if you have recommendations. I literally could not have given him an easier prompt. In creativity, more freedom is not easier, it's harder. Telling someone draw anything, you'll be graded for it. And they can't think of anything. Tell them draw something that shouldn't fly, but does. You'll be graded for it, and ideas come up immediately. It was elementary level. A harmless what did you do on the weekend? Thing to practice diary style writing. The amount of casual child abuse they described was shocking. Theoretically speaking, then could this be a way to find out which child are being abused at home and help them? Even if only one kid decides to write about it, it's still something. I did do some reporting. Not sure if it got escalated since I am teaching at an academy and not a public school in South Korea. It's good to have on record and it helps me know what and how much to put into the kids, if that makes sense. Korean here, and child abuse really isn't a concept people are familiar with in Korea. Parents beating their children is a common occurrence, and students are forced to study plus 12 hours a day. People don't think it's child abuse, they think it's parenting and education. That is profoundly sad. Beating kids was common in the US until a generation or so ago. When I was briefly in first grade in Alabama in the 80s, the teachers could spank us without parental permission in class.